Joseph Parker's shocking positive test for cocaine sent a jolt through the boxing world, instantly overshadowing everything that had happened in the heavyweight division over the past few weeks.
Yes, guys, Red Corner Boxing here. So news has broke today that Joseph Parker has failed a drugs test on the day of the Fabio Wardley fight. The substance has been confirmed as cocaine. Joe Parker is looking at a seriously long ban now. If it's like Liam Cameron, it could be 4 or 5 years.
The former world champion, known for keeping a clean image throughout his career, suddenly found himself at the center of a controversy that few would have imagined. News of the failed test emerged right after his defeat to Fabio Wardley, a loss that had already dealt a major blow to his hopes of climbing back toward the top of the heavyweight ladder. What made the story even more dramatic was the timing of the test, since it was carried out during the most intense period of preparation and competition.
Surprise. And I'll wait and see what happens. I mean, I don't know the findings. We don't know. I haven't seen statements really. I don't know. It's come out in the social media world as these things do. We heard that AJ and Jake Paul was almost done for December, but Eddie said to me yesterday it's 60-40. So we don't know. I don't know if that is the case and he's failed a sample for cocaine. That's really surprising, massively surprising for me. I love Joe Parker. He's been an amazing fighter over the years. He's a wonderful human being. He's been great to be around. So yeah, it took me by real surprise and really disappointed me. So we just have to wait and see how it unfolds.
Parker, a 33-year-old fighter from New Zealand who held the heavyweight crown between 2016 and 2018, was flagged after being examined by the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association. The test was reportedly taken on October 25th, just one day before he stepped into the ring for what many had seen as a crucial fight for his future. Although he ended up losing to Wardley in the 11th round, the test result added a new layer of complication to his already painful setback. Sources close to the process indicated that the substance involved was recreational rather than performance-enhancing, which added a twist to the storyline but did not remove the seriousness of the situation.
Sun newspaper reporting that Joseph Parker failed a drug test for cocaine on the day of his loss to Fabio Wardley.
Look, the first thing I would always say when something like this happens is performance enhancing. Now, it's probably not, but it depends who you ask, because there's some fighters that probably had it in their careers, in their camps, that would argue that it was performance enhancing. Now, I haven't got much experience, if any at all, with that substance, but you wouldn't think that a heavyweight would need it
It's very odd, isn't it?
To do anything performance related. Now, who am I to judge? Outside of being a professional boxer, we're all humans. And we all have our own vices and we all have our own stresses, and if it's banned and he gets a ban for it, then it is what it is.
His promoters, who had been preparing him for another run at world level, responded by acknowledging the adverse finding and withholding further comments until the situation becomes clearer. Behind the scenes, the mood was described as tense and confused, and even members of Parker's own team seemed stunned. His UK manager expressed disbelief and insisted they would uncover what happened, suggesting that none of them saw this situation coming. The news also triggered immediate discussions about the potential consequences, since disciplinary action would not be handled by the organization that conducted the original test. Instead, the case would fall to UK Anti-Doping and the British Boxing Board of Control, both of which will need to carry out their own investigation before any sanction is decided.
For it to be a failed drug test at that point, you start to wonder if there's something a little deeper.
You gotta have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was trying to beat around the bush, but yeah, directly, yeah. I mean, you can't wait till another day or two, and then you just do it then. I mean, if that's what you're into, because
you test you day after,
you wouldn't have popped if you would have just waited another couple of days, right? So, yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe this is what sometimes is needed to get help. I remember David Benavidez failed, and he's like, I'm gonna get help about this, and for all intents and purposes, we assume he doesn't do it anymore.
He's a lot younger when he popped.
Yeah.
That's another thing we were talking about. By the way, of course, we discussed this stuff off camera before we started. And your thing was, man, he's a little old to be.
Yeah, to be enjoying those kind of recreational drugs. Usually,
right. Yeah.
Usually, you go through something like that if you're the type to you'll go through that crazy period when you're younger, you make your money and all that other stuff, and then you get a little older. You're like, you know what? I got to get myself together.
Settle down.
I want to settle my life down a little bit. I want to settle my money down a little bit, because obviously Joseph Parker, we assume is fine financially. So, but you're at the age where you're not spending it on drugs anymore. You know? So you get a little older. Now you're spending it on more responsible stuff.
If a suspension is issued, the penalty could vary widely. The current rules give room for anything from a few months on the sidelines to a full 2-year ban, depending on the circumstances surrounding the case. Those who follow anti-doping issues pointed out that the landscape has shifted in recent years. The boxing community remembers the 4-year penalty handed to Liam Cameron in 2019. Still, every case is different, and Parker's future depends heavily on what investigators find and how the governing bodies interpret the situation. Before this controversy hit, Parker had been aiming to earn another chance at the sports summit. His loss to Anthony Joshua in 2018 ended his reign as champion, but he had rebuilt himself step by step and was hoping that a win over Wardley would put him in line to challenge the undisputed champion Oleksandr Usyk. Instead, the defeat closed one door and the failed test slammed another.
Right, people, so former heavyweight world champion Joseph Parker tested positive for traces of cocaine on the day of Fabio Wardley's defeat, a source has confirmed to the Sky Sports News. This is madness. This is abness. No wonder why he was being able to no wonder why he was so hyper in the fight. You know what I mean? Like, Fabio Wardley was throwing haymakers at this guy and he was still standing up and still punching and still going through. There was a point in the fight where Fabio Wardley was just throwing the maddest of punches, and how are you still standing up? Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make any sense at all. Now it makes sense. You know, after reading this article, it all makes sense how you were able to stand up and keep it going.
While Parker's drama captured huge attention, the heavyweight division was already undergoing major changes of its own. One of the biggest developments was the sudden rise of Fabio Wardley, the man who defeated Parker and unexpectedly found himself propelled into a new role in world boxing. Wardley, a confident, heavy-handed fighter from Ipswich, delivered the best performance of his career when he stopped Parker in the 11th round. That victory alone was set to boost his profile, but the story quickly grew even bigger. Only weeks after their fight, the landscape shifted again when Oleksandr Usyk made a major decision about his titles. Usyk, who had unified all 4 belts by defeating Daniel Dubois in July, had been expected to return to action and defend the WBO belt. Next, the governing body had originally instructed him to face the interim champion, who at the time was Joseph Parker. However, as negotiations dragged on due to Usyk nursing an injury, Parker's defeat changed the picture entirely, and Wardley became the new mandatory challenger instead.
Fabio Wardley has become a heavyweight world champion after Oleksandr Usyk vacated his WBO title. The Ukrainian's decision to give up the belt means he loses his status as the unified heavyweight champion of the world. The move is huge for British boxing, with Wardley becoming just the 11th Brit to be a heavyweight world champ in history. He recently knocked out Joseph Parker to become the mandatory challenger for Usyk's WBO belt. But rather than taking on the undefeated champ for his belt, he's been gifted it instead. It is the second time Usyk has vacated a belt, having let go of the IBF title last year. The WBO confirmed they had received confirmation from Usyk that he wished to relinquish his title. They said they are honouring the Ukrainian's career and calling this step a respectful pause, not a farewell.
Just as the situation seemed headed toward a high-stakes showdown between Wardley and Usyk, the division was rocked by another major announcement. Usyk chose to vacate the WBO belt after reviewing his options and planning his next steps, especially after an incredibly demanding run that had seen him become a 2-time undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. The Ukrainian champion informed the organization that he would not defend the title next. This decision instantly elevated Wardley from interim champion to full WBO heavyweight champion. Wardley, now officially recognized as Britain's latest heavyweight world champion, joined a short list of fighters from the country who have held the WBO heavyweight title. With the administrative step complete, he became only the second active male British world champion alongside Nick Ball, who holds a featherweight belt. The achievement carried extra weight because Wardley's journey began without a traditional amateur background. Unlike most fighters who reach the top, he had never boxed as an amateur at all. Instead, he started in white-collar contests before turning professional in 2017. His path was unusual but undeniably impressive, having collected notable victories against fighters like Justis Huni, David Adelai, and most recently Joseph Parker.
Usyk! Oh! Usyk!
Alexander Usyk has vacated his WBO heavyweight title after being told to defend against Fabio Wardley. He didn't want no smoke. He didn't want no smoke with Fabio Wardley. He saw what Fabio Wardley done against Joseph Parker, David Adelaide, even Fraser Clark. He saw what Fabio Wardley done to Fraser Clark, and he was like, you know what?
I don't want any of that.
I've had my
hard fights. I've had to fight Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois. Listen, I'm tired. I want an easy fight.
The man his flowers. Credit where credit's due. He's earned his respect. You know, he's been in the ring with Justice Hooney, been in the ring with Joseph Parker, who's even calling out Usyk as well. This guy, he's willing to fight whoever. You know, and now he's got the WBO belt now. He's going to have to defend that.
The timing of Usyk's decision created an unexpected turning point for both Wardley and the division as a whole. With Usyk stepping away from that particular title, the heavyweight scene opened up dramatically. Wardley's new status placed him at the center of attention, and the possibilities for major fights in the coming year grew significantly. Many now wonder who he will face next. One name regularly mentioned is Moses Itama, a rising 20-year-old who has already captured the position of #1 contender with the WBO. The matchup between Wardley and Itama would be one of the most fascinating clashes of generations in modern boxing.
Breaking news in the world of boxing, Fabio Wardley has been elevated to the WBO World Heavyweight Champion. This means that Usyk has vacated. He's vacated, and the WBO have put out a statement. The WBO have said that Usyk has announced that he has relinquished the WBO Heavyweight Championship, and that obviously they commend him for all his efforts, that he's undisputed world champion twice over in the heavyweight division, and they've decided to relinquish. I don't know what this means. Does this mean that he's going to relinquish his other titles and vacate his other titles? Is it just the WBO? Are people going to say that he's ducking Wardley? I don't know. There's lots to come into play for this. I mean, it's fantastic for Fabio Wardley, but yeah, lots of questions to be raised about Usyk's career and the next steps he's made, because he did say he wants to continue fighting.
If that fight does not come next, there are other contenders standing ready. Filip Hrgović is currently the next fighter in line behind Itama. The Croatian heavyweight has built strong momentum by defeating Joe Joyce and David Adelaide in consecutive bouts. His recent rebuild followed a stoppage defeat to Daniel Dubois. Wardley may find himself facing Hrgović sooner rather than later. Promoters have already started building the narrative for Wardley's next chapter. His team expressed enormous pride, pointing to his rapid rise and remarkable achievements in a relatively short time. After all, becoming world champion just a few years after taking up the sport is nearly unheard of, and his background as someone without amateur experience has only added to the appeal of his story. With the WBO belt now around his waist, the stage is set for a busy period of title defenses and high-level challenges throughout 2026. Major promoters believe Wardley could become one of the biggest British stars of the coming era if he continues to grow and stays active against elite opponents.
Alexander Usyk vacated the WBO heavyweight title. Fabio Wardley is now being promoted to champion. Very, very, very happy for Wardley. What a story it has been. No matter the circumstance, what a story.
Meanwhile, Usyk's decision to remove the WBO title from his collection marked the end of one chapter in his legendary career. Even without the belt, he remains one of the most decorated fighters of his generation, having already conquered the cruiserweight division before moving up and repeating that success at heavyweight. The Ukrainian star has built a legacy that few fighters in modern boxing can match. Although he no longer holds every belt, he still carries the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles, and he is expected to return to the ring in 2026. His future opponents have not been confirmed, but the boxing community is eager to see whom he chooses next. Across all of this, Joseph Parker's situation remains a major talking point. Had things gone differently in his fight with Wardley, he might have been the one elevated to world champion. Instead, he is now dealing with the fallout of his positive test while sitting outside the title picture. Until UK anti-doping completes its investigation and determines whether a suspension is required, Parker's career sits in a state of limbo. The failed test has overshadowed what had originally been a disappointing defeat, creating new challenges for the New Zealander as he tries to rebuild again.
Did Alexander Usyk just duck Fabio Wardley? Literally a couple hours ago, we found out that Alexander Usyk vacated his WBO title. Now the WBO sanctioning organization wanted to mandate a shot for Fabio Worley so he can face Alexander Usyk, and Usyk turned it down. So now he has vacated the WBO title. He is no longer the undisputed champion, and Fabio Worley has now become the WBO champion on the heavyweight division. We'll see what ends up happening now. There's rumors circulating, and I don't know how true it is, but there's rumors circulating that Jake Paul, once he is done fighting Anthony Joshua, if he wins, he will be trying to face Alexander Usyk. Let me know in the comments what you think, y'all. Let me know.
The combination of Parker's failed test, Wardley's rise, and Usyk's decision to vacate the title has created one of the most dramatic and unpredictable shakeups in recent heavyweight history. In just a short span of time, the division experienced a major upset, a doping surprise, a champion stepping aside, and a new champion emerging from the chaos. For fans, the turbulence has made the heavyweight scene more unpredictable and more fascinating than ever. As things stand, Fabio Wardley now carries the responsibility of holding one of the sport's most sought-after belts. His journey has been unconventional and his rise surprisingly swift. But the real challenge begins as he enters this new phase of his career. Joseph Parker, meanwhile, must confront the biggest crisis he has faced as a professional. Hoping he can clear his name or minimize the damage, Alexander Usyk continues to move forward in his own way, shaping the next part of his remarkable career, while the rest of the division adjusts to the openings created by his departure from the WBO throne.